joining. This is the next edition of our roundtable series here at Amicus. Today we've got 3 leaders from across the talent and people markets in Denmark, and we're here to talk about something which is really important, not just in the Danish market, but in recruitment and hiring across the world, and that's candidate experience, and really what you can do as a recruiter and what you can do as a business to create the ultimate candidate experience. So in just a second, I'm going to get everyone to do a quick 30-second intro on themselves, and then we'll jump straight into the question. So Katie, you're on my screen at the moment. So would you mind just doing a quick 30-second intro and letting everyone know who you are?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Kirthana. I have been in the HR and recruitment space for about 8.5 years now. Often, like most of my experience has been with scale-ups and startups and often building up their entire recruitment function. I'm currently based out in Denmark, but originally from India. So that's me.
Amazing. Thank you.
Nice.
Diana, welcome to you next.
Yeah, nice meeting you all. Hi, everyone. I'm Diana. I've been in corporate HR for over 6 years now. Tech and e-commerce, global environment focus. I had the privilege of supporting fast-scaling tech startups and multinational large organizations and also nonprofit finance sector. So yeah, I'm tech savvy, focused on data-driven strategic HR. And I've been in Copenhagen now for 5 years, originally from Ukraine.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Tobias.
Hello, everyone. I am Tobias. I'm running a one-person talent team out of electricity maps, 30-ish amount of people. So it's a lot of focus on hiring people to scale up the company, but also build a lot of the talent strategy moving forward for at least 2026 so far. I guess my main experience would be startup scale-up tech companies, very, very niche in Copenhagen a little bit, but I've done that for closing in on 7 years, I think, doing multiple markets and multiple different roles, from setting up a heavy tech strategies to do finance and sales and all that.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Cool. So we'll get straight into the conversation now that we all know who everyone is. And I think probably the best place to start, since we're talking about candidate experience, is really to get everyone's actual opinion on what that is and what it looks like to you. So Tobias, we came to you last day. We'll come to you first, if that's okay. But to you, what is candidate experience?
Candidate experience is such a broad term. I think it covers so many different aspects of what it means to actually hire great people. A candidate experience for me is something that starts super early, like even before they apply. It happens on looking at reviews, talk to people in person. It's like a reputation as well. That's kind of where it starts. So for me, it's really the essence of finding great people and have them motivated to join. And it's really up to us to create that experience and hopefully portray and demonstrate what it means to be working at the company you are. So that's kind of like the essence of it, to really make sure it's a good experience. Because I will be honest, I think you hear a lot of bad stories from people who have horrible experiences, and I think I put on myself in my cape that I want to try and be better than what the standard is, not trying to put a big halo on myself, but I hear a lot of horrible things about people not being responded to, or not hearing back, not getting feedback, not being treated as humans, but only getting automatic responses throughout the entire stage. So I think definitely one thing I want to take away is that kind of experience is also bringing the human touch back a little bit in a technology-driven world.
Can't argue with that, especially with AI going the way it is. Anybody got any advancements on that?
Yeah.
Any other points to add?
I just want to say it's amazing input from Tobias' side. I totally agree on all, especially a part when candidates experience while being ghosted by companies and how that actually affects company brand. But I agree, it's a candidate experience. It's really every single interaction a job seeker has with your company. And it really starts, as Tobias says, very early and often way before they apply, That's where and why employer brand matters. How you present yourself outside matters a lot. And then, of course, there are some well-established touch points, just to, so people can understand better what is candidate experience. Of course, it's like we often say that it's like job ads and employer brand. They go together. Then you go to interview scheduling and communication. They go together. And on each touch point, you really need to deliver the quality and Tobias says, and the human touch. So the candidates, they should feel they are valued and they are important, because they are. They are not just numbers. And then it goes to the interviews and assessments, where again, candidates start to really invest themselves, which means we also, as a companies, as HR, as we present the company, we need to be very transparent, very structured, and respect their time. So that is, it all goes in, in this exceptional, special, and high quality candidate experience. And then it goes to the final, to offer or rejections. Again, communication. Because here also, especially like in the business, like e-commerce, rejections, why it even more matters, because candidates are often clients or potential clients. They will come and buy or not buy. So negative experience or messy candidate experience can lead to drops in sale. Sales matters for e-commerce. So again, we transparent, we deliver feedback, and then the final, candidate well-established experience is pre-boarding and onboarding when hired. Again, it should be structured. People should know that everything that was discussed during the hiring process, we live by that, we deliver that. And it is very, very high rate of dropping the jobs and leaving companies. It's actually in onboarding period, when there is a massive mismatch of what was talked during the interviews by HR, how well it was discussed, the values, the job description, and then the person in the first months, they see a difference. So all of this is candidate experience.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry, Katie. Yeah, what were you going to add there?
Yes, I mean, I really love that you spoke about those things, Diana, especially about like how the person feels when, like, from the time that they see just the job title to like going and checking out, okay, what's the company about? That entire part of like their careers page, everything matters. And you also kind of go into what is that candidate looking for. Like it could be somebody who's has lost their job, or is looking out for a better opportunity, or is just just looking for what's best for them. But they're all in different state of mind, and like even the smallest things, they make so much of a difference, right? Even like when you're submitting your application, if there's like this small part that asks you, do you have a sponsorship for your visa, because we can't sponsor. But if someone writes like in brackets that if you already have a sponsorship, and it can be easily transferred, so you should apply, it makes that candidate feel even more like, okay, yes, these people value everything in and out, right? So yeah, all of that matters. Like I think it starts like just seeing that title until the end.
Moments, I 100% agree. Those little moments, they really matters.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can I add something to what you said, Diana? Because I think it's probably such an overlooked area of what candidate experience is, and that's from signing the contract to their first day. Especially in a place like Denmark, where, I mean, if you're a little bit cheeky, you only have a day and a month's notice period, but you can have longer, and it could be 2 months, it could be holiday period. So maybe they're starting on the other side of the summer. And I think you should always have in the back of your mind, if you have the best candidate and it's a really strong candidate and they're currently employed somewhere, expect them to receive a counteroffer in that period. So the better personal relationship you can build with them, the more personally attached you can get. So that's why invite them to the office in between this period. Make sure people reach out and say welcome. The more of a personal attachment you make, the harder it will be for them to then halfway through say, oh, sorry, I actually accept another offer at somewhere else. And then
Tobias,
all that work goes to waste. Such
Tobias,
an important part.
I want to say that I really can feel your experience in building up the companies. Because even in this comment, I can hear the experience of the person who knows the value of the high candidate, who, even though they say yes to you, but yes, if they have 2 months notice period, or at least like in Denmark, running +1, it's still a lot, and it is a high chance they will get another offer which can top yours. So
Yeah.
that's why pre-boarding is as much is important as onboarding. And companies, they should structure it. They should also make it a flow, so the candidate in this 1.5 months waiting to start, they need to feel, taken care of.
Yeah.
And especially, like, I think it's a very good point from your side to feel that company wants you, like for real. We can't wait for you to start. And this is what we do. And it doesn't have to be a big things, but it could be like, very structured, very short, sweet message. This is what we do. And then next week we will do this. So the person knows stage by stage, I'm coming to my first day, and look even more forward to start with the company. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like a lot of really, really good points raised. And it kind of covers, to be honest, one of the things that we were going to talk about a little bit later on, which is like, where does candidate experience really start and end? Because I think in a lot of people's minds, maybe that aren't in recruitment day to day, or don't kind of, have this as a main focus of their career, they probably imagine that it's the experience of going through an interview process, or how somebody is rejected from a process. So it's really interesting to know that that's, it comes across on both sides from the beginning, with the employer branding and how the company's seen in the market, especially in somewhere like Copenhagen and in Denmark as a whole, where there's a lot of tight-knit communities and everyone knows everyone. It's really, really important to have that employer brand, and that's something we can come back to a little bit later. While we're on that point about kind of, communities and especially within tech, how a lot of people know each other. I don't know whether this is something that you've seen in your companies, or we mentioned before about horror stories that you hear. What do you think the main kind of drawbacks and negative effects of a bad candidate experience can be?
It can be really massive. And first of all, negative candidate experience, it affects drop in employer brand trust. As you mentioned, Jamie, that employer branding, it is heavily important. And I think, and we can see now the tendency that companies really care about that and invest in employer branding, because negative candidate experience, due to the research, it was that the 60% of people will never apply again if they were ghosted, especially in the latest stage of hiring. Because of course, when you apply and you never hear from company, this can be easier let go. But if you as a job seeker have passed the first stage and then came maybe to the company or done assessment, so you have invested yourself and then you've been ghosted, that is heavy. So of course it's drop in employer brand trust, negative reviews on Glassdoor. I think the place that now companies also really looking into. Fewer referrals. People talk, and we need to remember that no matter how big Denmark is, people talk, especially senior candidates, and the pool is not as big. So we should care about that. And of course, it's higher rejection rates when it comes to offers, because they also remember hearing also senior candidates, they first go to Glassdoor to see and read reviews and then decide, do I want to apply and start with a company or not?
Yeah.
So these 3 points to think about. And of course, for the business like e-commerce, candidates are often customers, and that bad experience leads to drops in sales, leads to them leaving this feedback on the LinkedIn, on Glassdoor, the platforms, massive platforms that we care about, negative reviews. They are real reviews, so that of course should be taken care of.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. It's something I'd be keen to explore a little bit further later on. That, again, it's a lot of things that companies seem to forget, but I don't know what the percentages are, but so many more people are rejected from an interview process than are accepted. Realistically, in most processes, you can hire one person. You might have 100 applicants for that role. That means 99 people are getting rejected. In a lot of ways, it's actually more important about how you manage their experience than the person who's hired, because the person who's hired can have that experience bettered once they actually join. But if people are rejected, the only experience they've got is knowing that they weren't accepted into that role, and how that was handled is obviously really, really important. So no,
Absolutely.
I like that.
It's when rejections handled right, company has the chance to win the loyalty. And
Exactly.
especially as we mentioned that in some, if it's potentially your client, you win yourself a client. The person will come back as a client, as a next time maybe apply again, look for more different opportunities, speak highly of the process with your company, with their friends, their families who might be your potential employees. So it really matters. And rejections, as you say, Jamie, they are statistically higher than hires. Of course, we meet 10 candidates and we hire one. So rejections
Exactly.
are important to handle well. Absolutely.
Exactly. What were you going to add there, Katie? Sorry.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about a recent thing that happened where, like, even your job descriptions, right? Any kind of weird stuff that you write, like, because you're a startup and you write fun things, right? We want someone who wants to work here all the time, and that's like such a big red flag for people. And people actually start posting about it on LinkedIn, and then you're just like, oh no, we didn't mean to mean that in that sense. Yeah, so yeah,
We are family.
yeah. So you got to be careful about like every single touch point with the candidate. And yeah, it does affect your brand a lot. And just like you said, Denmark is a small place. You end up meeting people. Like I've ended up meeting people that I've rejected at like random places. Like, oh, I only know them by the name on the resume, but not actually. So yeah, it's really important to like deliver that really good experience. Yeah.
I can maybe add a little bit here, because I very much agree. Like, it's all the things you mentioned are so important. I don't want to play devil's advocate a little bit, but I think there's a sad truth in the market that we're in right now, which is that a not great candidate experience is expected, and generic job posts are also expected. So every time someone goes out of their way to enhance that, it's amazing. But also, it's might not be as negative if the bad is already expected. So it's like you have to find a balance on where you spend your time, of course, especially in a world where everyone tries to reinvent applying. And I mean, I'm at fault of this myself as well. It's like, oh, this is an amazing way of applying, do this video and do all these amazing cool stuff. And but at the end of the day, I think a lot of candidates just care about, is this an interesting role, and is this an interesting company I would like to work at? I mean, we don't need to do all of these dramatic big things sometimes. But it really comes down to, especially in Copenhagen, where I think networking is key, both for TA people, but also for candidates. The amount of people who are quickly hired because they know someone, get in touch, invite them to the office, and it's like, this is someone I can vouch for. It's like, okay, and I trust you. Good people know good people, that kind of stuff. And it not only reduces the cost of TA of hiring, it also greatly increases the success I've seen. I don't have any data points to back it up other than my experience of people getting referred is often a very high success. So there's a lot of positives coming out of it, especially. But at the end of the day, I think a bad experience means people are sharing the bad experience, they're talking about it, and there's this idea that people forget, and I agree, but people like to remember the bad things and maybe the companies. So if I have a bad experience at company A, then maybe in 2 years, and my friend tells me, "Hey, I'm applying there." I'm like, yeah, I don't remember that was a good thing. That was a bad thing. It can make a person not apply. I don't necessarily think that's the entire case. But it gives you an uphill battle that you need to face. And worst case scenario, you're not getting the good applications that you were hoping for. And as a TA person, a little bit selfish here, that means I need to do a lot of sourcing. I need to not know, why are people not applying? Is it a job ad? Am I not reaching the right people? Whatever it is, it's just a big cloud of not knowing. And I can't get the data because people are not interested. So it can have a lot of negative effects. But I think it's also finding the balance because unfortunately, you don't need to create an awesome experience to have good people to apply. I think there's a neutral level where you're completely fine. I don't think you need to go out and spend an enormous amount of resources on employer branding early on. I think a neutral experience, a neutral good experience with a little bit of human touch, I think that will get you very far.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's crazy. And again, it sounds like a negative thing because it is really, it's crazy how low the bar is for candidate experience nowadays, like you were saying. Most people, I think, come into a process expecting to have a bad candidate experience, expecting to be ghosted or just having a bad experience in general. It's crazy, like, and this isn't me bigging myself up at all because it's just me doing what should be normal. But if you take the time to ring somebody after their CV's been rejected or they go through a process and they get rejected, if you ring them and have a 4 or 5 minute conversation about why they were rejected, what the feedback was, what the next steps will be, a lot of people like think that's a really, really like massive thing that you're doing, like going really above and beyond. Like, oh, thank you so much for like, just telling me what's going on. And it really makes me sad because that should be the absolute minimum expectation for anyone who's applying to any job ever. But no,
For
I think
sure.
we're really, really good points raised there, Tobias.
I mean, it's so sad, but also what an opportunity for those companies that choose to invest in candidate experience.
Exactly. They're going to kind of thrive in the market because there is companies as well. One of the things that we haven't actually touched on, we've kind of alluded to it, but haven't spoken about it as much as I think everyone here has worked in scale-ups and startups to an extent. It can stop you actually being able to grow your team, especially in Copenhagen. There's a couple of companies that come to my mind straight away where I wouldn't be able to work with them because I know they've got such a bad rep in the market that it would almost damage my reputation by being involved with them. And so many people speak to each other and have friends that have interviewed there and heard bad things, and it gets around so quickly. And like we've said, bad news obviously spreads a lot quicker than good news, unfortunately. So just having a good candidate experience can actually make you stand out. So it's crazy times that we live in.
And one more point about human touch. And we don't have even, as you both correctly mentioning, you don't even have to go to raise your bar that high. But how about AI? Now, so many companies are using AI on the first stages of recruitment where the TA not even looking at the pipeline, but AI already rejected or already selected you 5, 7 candidates that the AI thinks it's the best match. And I think there is and I'm genuinely curious to hear your opinion. I think there is no that much transparency from companies that I think would be so valuable if it would be outspoken that we use AI, that if your CV is not tailored, that keywords are not there, you don't have a chance. And it's not because you are not good enough. The candidates can be really professional and senior. What do you think? What is your experience now and thoughts on using AI by companies?
I have some thoughts on it because I do think it varies a lot from company to company, how many resources they're able to really pull into it, what is expected of the TA or HR person that is part of it, or the manager is controlling that experience, whatever it is. There's definitely common an expectation in today's world where a person can do a lot more because of AI. So instead of hiring 2 people, you can get by with 1, and then you use the tools. So that creates a very hard framework because what ends up happening if you are a recognizable company, you are able to attract a lot of candidates. If I'm looking at 300 applications for a position, I'm spending the next week just looking at those. And if I'm in a startup scale up and I need to be very efficient with my time, I don't blame people who use tools to figure out which of these 400, which of these 50 is the ones I actually need to spend the time on right now. to kind of be a little bit efficient, because I think it's a balance. I think there is an ideal world where we have time to look at all of them. We have time to give tailored feedback to all of them as well. And then there's reality of the business and expectations from your manager and from the rest of the business, which is I need to be effective with my time. So how do I set up ways that I can do that? And I think for a lot of people, I think there's other ways, but one of the main ones I think is using AI as a tool to read through. So I think it depends. I don't blame people for doing it, but I think it's a result of the era that we're in.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking about the transparency. I think that's what I wish, because it should be fair game. You know, when we talk about fair game for both, for candidates and for companies, I think I absolutely agree with you that it is time now. AI is here. It really helps. It's really becoming stronger, more powerful, and of course, it should be in use. I also think it should be just transparency. When we talk about candidate experience, that's part of it.
Yeah, 100%. It's a very there's no straight answer, I don't think, because there's a lot of different things to factor in it. Just before we move, Kirthana, have you got anything to add to that point with Tobias or with Diana?
I mean, I agree with both of them. It's I don't know, like a personal opinion of mine is like that first touch point. I see like a lot of companies doing this, like a video AI rejection, and we did screen a few products also that were like that. And one of the main things that came out were a lot of flags on the inclusivity part. Even though we were like asking exactly, okay, we want an engineer with X experience, having worked and exposed to these kind of trends, but we actually saw that there was a lot of bias with being D and I focused. So yeah, I think as AI learns and it gets there, everyone might switch to it. But personally, just like Diana also mentioned, like saying that transparently, like you are going, like the first two stages is going to be vetted by AI or something like that, will help change that experience for people.
Yeah, 100%. And that again is another point that I wanted to raise later, and that's that even now, a lot of companies, it does feel like sometimes are almost against their applicants. Like, we're talking
Yeah.
about transparency here. It almost feels like some companies want to make it difficult for people to be able to work for them. Like, why? Like, what is all that about? Why do you not want people to be able to work for you? I'm not saying that you should, put the bar on the floor and just let anybody work for you. But it's always blown my mind a little bit. And another thing, just on that, and this is a very random point, but it's just came to my mind, is a lot of companies have their careers page almost like hidden in their website. That's another thing that I've always found really interesting. Like, you should be shouting from the rooftops that you're hiring and that you're growing and that you're looking to bring people on board. So I think that's definitely another thing we can come to. But yeah,
But that's a good point about companies whose employer brand stops at the career page. Good point.
exactly. Another thing just to touch on, I appreciate I'm going to have to kind of cut things a little bit just because we could be talking about candidate experience for days upon days, and forever. So, in terms of the experience, everyone here has worked in like talent teams that are dedicated and they have like a specific talent division. How much of it do you think falls on you compared to people in the engineering team, for example, or in the finance team that are also doing the hiring?
Tobias, go ahead.
No, please. I've
All
talked
right,
a
with
lot
you.
already.
All right. So I think that yes, the TA is super important because like I feel like it's the face of the company in a way because it's the first touch point that you have. But then a lot of like the convincing part of like why this is the company you want to work with, why this is the role for you, does fall a lot on the interviewing teams. So it's important, like as a TA, you set up the processes in such a way that everybody who's in the company is also like really excited and motivated to be part of interviewing. But it shouldn't also paint a fake picture to the candidate like, oh, is everyone all hyper always in the company? So I think I would say it's like almost like a 45% split, like with the TAs. It is super important because you're the one driving the entire process as well. Yeah, that's my thought on it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I agree. I think when we talk about influence of talent teams via hiring teams, hiring managers, it is shared, the influence. And I think it's so important to align on the beginning of the process, to align that we are sharing this, we are in this together, because as we probably all here know that often control of decision speed are on hiring managers, and how fast and how successfully we are closing candidates, closing positions, it is on decision speed that hiring managers are driving. So I think the alignment and communication before we start the process, just to make sure that they know how much they have to be involved, what do they bring to the table. Like, I agree with Kate that they do represent the culture, they represent the culture of their team. Since they are hiring managers, they will be the managers. So they share already in the interviews, they set the tone for interviews. They set the tone of what kind of managers they are, what kind of culture it is in the team. So the candidate already in the interview stage can understand, okay, this is what I'm looking for. So I think it is so important to, before we start hiring, to have the meeting with the hiring managers and discuss this all. Also, as we work with tech and teams, it really differs from hiring manager to hiring manager how much they are prepared, how much they are experienced interviewing, because to drive the interview, it also can be challenging for everybody. And hiring managers, they don't have to be HR in that sense to be so experienced, know how to ask, how to check not only hard skills. There they are amazing. They know how to ask, about coding, about the projects, but how about soft skills? How about how that person will fit in your team in
Exactly.
short time, in a long term, when you think strategically about building up your team, like we are here, it is our job to do, to hire strategically for development, for the building up the strengths. So all these moments should be discussed, and if a hiring manager is up to that, maybe there is little coaching could be there from HR, just to tell them how we do this, so we balance, so we are a team. But it's absolutely shared, the influence, carried together.
For sure. I think that's I agree with both of you. It's shared. That is the correct answer. I will try again, poke a little bit around here, because I do think by proxy it will fall back on talent and HR. Because eventually it will be affected on our job to do what we came to do, which is to find the best candidate, scale the company up, and be effective at doing so, and as cost effective as possible. So no matter how shared it is, it will always fall back on the responsibility of me as a talent person, and then of course it will affect the entire company, but it will be directly converted to me. So, but I do agree, it's a lot about um, sharing that idea with managers from the very, very, very first conversation, that, oh, we are doing this together. And it's like there's ways you can do that by mimicking energy, and how much effort you bring is how much energy I bring in, and you can really make people give the idea that we are in this together and we are both part of this. So 100% agree on that. Um, but one thing I had a lot of trouble with, especially in early, and also sometimes it comes up. And you talked a little bit about this, Deanna, of like upskilling people. I think that's a good way to do it. It's like, hey, if someone is not giving a good candidate experience, then let's figure out ways that we can make that better, both for the interviewer and for the person being interviewed. And I think that falls a little bit on me as a talent person. But having people admit that they might need some help, or give people the idea that, hey, maybe I should join in on the next one, it's a tough discussion to have, and you really need to be careful on how you do it. But especially with seasoned leaders, like I have managers with 20, 30 years of experience, and I had candidates afterwards say, that was not a good experience. It was like an interrogation. And I was like, huh, how do I insert myself in this so I can see this at first hand? So it's tough, and it's a little bit of a politics, but definitely achievable.
Absolutely. A brilliant point, Tobias, about delivering sensitive feedback to the hiring manager when you really want them to see the point that we probably need a little session before we do another interview. Because it is happens, especially with the very senior managers who's been in business for 20 plus years, then it's even harder to sometimes to deliver sensitive feedback. But I think it's so important, and it's the way you deliver. And also here it comes the importance to create trusted relationship with hiring managers so they can actually hear you and don't take it too defensive, because I think it's the way we HR deliver that and explain that, of course, they don't have to be perfect. They can't know everything and things changes. So I'm here because this is my part where I'm experienced, and it's my job to also help you. So let me please help you in the way you feel most comfortable. But we need to make it great together.
Yeah.
So not to make candidates cry.
I was actually
joking in this part now.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about another area where I think like hiring managers and the hiring team do get a little bit more involved, is especially with like a bunch of like very senior hires at the offer stage, or like after you give them an offer, like actually having that interaction, like getting them out for a fika or just like a meetup where you're like, you really need to try hard, because obviously being at a very senior position, you're like the most competitive person, like every TA wants to hire that person. So what makes you stand out? And I don't think that the TA can do that on them all by themselves, because you can't market and like be like, this is what you're going to do from day one. So I think there the hiring managers and the hiring team, they do make a huge difference coming on board and closing out the candidate.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the time when people, especially hiring managers, get more brought into the process, isn't it? It's kind of almost like you can't really call it aftercare because it's still part of the process, but after the offer's been made and accepted, and like I say, that kind of pre-boarding time when everyone is there, it's really important for that person to see their manager and how they interact with people in like group settings, and even if it's
Yeah.
like something like you say, like going to a meetup together or inviting them out to like a summer party or something like that, so that they can see how that manager interacts with their team and knows kind of what they're getting themselves into. But I think I agree with everything that everyone has said. To be fair, they've all been really good points raised, and I think the main one that I kind of took away is making sure that hiring managers are educated, because as we've all agreed, like it's not their job necessarily to make all this happen. It's what we know the best. But being able to do that, like Tobias said, is definitely a difficult conversation to have in a lot of cases. So if anyone ever finds any kind of perfect way of doing it, then let me know, because I'm sure it'd be the golden nugget of information.
Yes, please share.
That would be great.
It would. It'd make everyone's lives easier, wouldn't it? Just obviously we've covered kind of the majority of points that we wanted to go through today, but we've got a little bit of time left over. So I was just wondering if there's anything else that people wanted to discuss, or any other points that people wanted to raise at all.
Sure. I always come with the interesting topics I want to explore a little bit. And it's actually sparked from the conversation we had earlier, Katie and Diana, on AI in this process. And we can pretend that AI is not relevant also for candidates to use. So the amount of times that I see a recruitment process or an application process, sorry, ask, why do you want to join us? It's an AI that answered it. Like it's gotten to a point where I had to rethink, like, how do I cut through this noise? And how do I acknowledge that it exists? But also, is it a bad thing? I don't necessarily think it is that they use AI. It's really on a lot of things to consider. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm just thinking about, how do you approach this? Is it something you thought about? Is this something that's on your radar, or anything on that?
I think that whenever we discuss, sorry, Diana, about bringing in tools to, for the entire process, like it could be just at the screening stage. So we do get a lot of people who apply there, let's say 300 to 400 people, and you want to cut that down to like 50 for the recruiter to screen. I don't know, like a personal opinion is that it does feel a little bit unfair, because it's like a candidate would also adapt to it by asking AI tools to give you the best answer. So you're kind of not beating the purpose of using an AI over there. So for me, I feel like that initial touch point is important. I mean, yes, like core skills mismatch, yes, drop off, agreed. But apart from that, the rest of it, I feel like I still want to have that human touch as a part of it. And when we choose AI tools, it's about like the later stages, in terms of giving feedback, in terms of assessing quality of understanding of like hard skills, things like that, but not so much on the soft skills side, because the first interaction is more on the soft skills match, right? So for me, like that's a personal opinion also, but yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Tiana, go ahead.
But a beautiful point. I agree. I agree with this. And also, what I would like to add, because I have seen many companies, when you, Kate, mentioning using AI on the screening stage, when there is very beginning, I came across some companies, they actually make candidates record the video. Like, tell us in 1 to 3 minutes, why do you want to work for us? And then you see the company of 17 people, half of them not even on LinkedIn. And then you think, okay, that's impressive. You know, that's impressive already. And then, of course, there is, I'm not surprised that when on LinkedIn you can see the job ad was posted like a week ago and they have 11 applicants. You can also, yeah, you need to, probably companies need to think about smart way using AI. And I agree with Tobias, as we mentioned that very often today, a balance. Like, when is the correct way to use it? Because exactly like we say here, both can adapt. I also, we can adapt by using AI, and because we have 200 applicants, I totally agree. We cannot make HR go through all of them all the time, and then you have like 10 positions. It's a lot of days. But also candidates, if they will start using AI for everything, then we again have this crazy game of AI. So companies need to have the strategy how and when we use AI. And as Tobias, you say, like, it should be used somehow tailored, so there is a human touch. But I think it's all about the adapting in a smart way, and not just thinking, I will put the video, I will force people to record themselves, then they will be real. I think people will just not apply.
Yep.
Because we need companies needs to remember, if you are like if you're not Google or those giants where really people want to work, and for many people it's a life goal to work there. If you're not Ernst & Young, or maybe then rethink your hiring strategy, make it better and easier for applicants.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. And again, really good points raised there. And I'm glad Tobias kind of brought this up as a talking point. I think where I personally sit on it, because obviously I'm in a slightly different position as more of an external recruiter than internal. I guess the devil's advocate thing to play here is that we had the same thing a little while ago. Obviously, I've mainly recruit for software engineers, and there was a thing a few years ago where companies would basically not allow engineers to use Google during like a coding challenge or a paired programming session. And the argument from the engineers was that, well, if I do get the job, then I'm going to be using Google quite regularly to search things up. Now it's the same thing. People are saying, oh, you shouldn't really use AI for these certain things, but it's like when you get into that position, everyone's going to be using AI anyway. But on the flip side of that, like from a personal experience, I know that I'm relatively bored of seeing the same messages over and over and over again. If I have a position posted on LinkedIn or on our website, most of the time, if somebody applies to a position there, you'll have a very, very similar message coming through, and it's very clear that it's an AI message. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but from a personal perspective, it's not overly interesting to read those messages again and again. So I'm not really too sure where the happy medium is, to be honest.
I have a screenshot of 4 messages right underneath each other, like almost identical, and I was laughing so much. It was so much fun.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just so funny. Um,
It's crazy, isn't it? But then, like we said, like the counter argument is, well, everyone's using it, so how do you say it's right or it's wrong? Or, but
hey,
admittedly, it's dull.
we are 8 months away from AI talking to AI, and then we're just spectators.
Exactly. Yeah, we just sit back, get a cup of coffee, and just kind of see what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, see what happens. It's such an interesting point. The reason why I also brought it up is I I'm trying something which I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, to be honest. Um, and that is I am expecting a candidate to use AI. Therefore, I'm trying this with one of my roles where I don't care about the CV. I don't care about like I have a couple of questions that I want you to answer, and you would think, yeah, you would use AI to answer those questions, and I almost encourage it because it's like I'm here. This question is, what is your experience with this exactly? I mean, they could lie, but they could always lie. But like they can use AI to kind of like, hey, this is my background, it's my experience. Put it in here, and then based off that, those should be a couple of good questions, and then maybe send me your LinkedIn or something like something that makes it like I'm expecting you to use AI, so you can use it if you want. That's not going to be a criteria for me to actually spend time looking at this. Um, so I'm trying that out to see if that actually works. If people want to spend time doing that, I don't know. I'm kind of testing it out a little bit, but also I mean, I would love a world where we're just not using CVs anymore. They're just what a jungle, to be honest.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? And this is where I can't remember who said it before. I think it was yourself, Katana, that mentioned about unconscious bias and like D&I becoming an issue within AI. Because throughout my whole career, like for example, when a new person starts at our company, I'll always kind of go through some training with them and show them like, oh, this is what, a CV looks like. This is how you know like somebody's good. And I always look back at some of the very best engineers that I've ever placed, and they always have the worst CVs. Like they always have terribly written CVs that are badly structured, don't have the right information in them, but only by speaking to them do you find
Happily
out they're
off.
as good as they are. Exactly. Yeah, there's different font sizes everywhere and different things going on. So do we really want AI screening that and ruling that person out when they could be the right, person for the job? It's a minefield. I don't really know what the answers are, to be honest.
But I
That's
believe,
all.
for some roles, you don't need AI because there is nobody applying. You need to headhunt. So
Exactly.
yeah. But I agree in some positions where you really have really 200 applicants. It's nice to have suggestions, but HR still can go in and look and agree or disagree. Make human decision to disagree and go and look yourself.
Very much. I wanna echo that a little bit, especially if you're part of like a startup, a scale up, something where things go quick. I I would rather measure myself on instead of time to fill metrics is like how quick can I identify the best candidate and how quickly can I get them through the process? Like speed is key. So if I can have tools that help me narrow in who I should be spending my time on right now, today, that I can set up interviews that are very relevant. Of course, I'm expecting the AI to be a decent job here, but if we can cut half of it at least, then some Friday afternoon with a glass of wine, I can sit and look through the others. Did I miss anything? Is there anything I want to look into here? But really helping me prioritize what should I spend my time on today and what should I not? Is I think it's the important part. But and I will echo what you said as well there, both Katie and Diana. To be honest, is especially if you're in an earlier startup, you have an idea of what you think you need in a role, and that is very subject to change throughout the process. So a great example here could be we're looking for a customer success person. We don't have any account manager, so we know that this customer success needs to work with this and this, a little bit of sales. It's like, okay, so maybe we do we need a salesperson? It's like, maybe we don't, maybe we do. And if you have AI screen through all of these like candidates are not relevant, I mean, you're also filtering out the opportunity to explore other avenues of like other hires. And the same go with tech. It's like we're looking for this front-end engineer, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but if you're in a decent TA position and you know a little bit of the forecast and head planning, they'd be like, yeah, but this is a good back end. So we might actually want to save that candidate or talk to engage with them to when we do need it. So
Absolutely. Yeah, building up also talent pool. That's also another side why human touch is so important, because it's really, if we talk about strategic hiring, it's important to have talent pool. And those applicants that didn't fit, as you say, customer success today, but they are great, maybe sales people or with the education that can fit them if it's junior positions, you might want to save the number and the contact in your talent pool. Absolutely.
Yeah,
But
I think
Tobias, what is so sorry.
no,
I
no,
was
it's
gonna
okay.
ask
It's okay.
a question. So you know how you can also adapt to it, right? So like if a candidate puts in the job description and says, you know, because today there's like prompts to say, build my resume to have all of these points, especially for this company, and it's so easy to just recreate your resumes. So your AI tool then is going to screen out this person who technically may not have the experience, but because AI has written their resume for them, they become your number one. Go and talk to them, and then you realize, oh, this is not the right candidate. Then what happens, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, isn't it? And again, I don't know what the perfect solution is to that, but it is happening so much more often now where we're seeing like fake profiles coming through. There may be, like you said, there may be real people who are just kind of expanding their experience, beyond what is real. But also just some people, and I'll never understand how this works, but there is almost like a little bit of an epidemic of people who are just making completely fake profiles and applying to jobs.
Yep.
And it's crazy. It's just bizarre. So, but again, that's probably when the answer to the bad AI is probably using AI to screen that out. But then we're at Tobias's point where AI is talking to AI, and then who knows what will happen. So probably best of staying clear of that for a while. Again, just conscious of time. Is there anything else that people wanted to go through, or any other points to raise at all?
I think one more point, it's about this all experience, candidate experience topic, and where does it end? I think we very nicely highlighted and covered the topic of candidate experience, and it's actually, it doesn't end. And we talked about how important it is to handle rejections. That's the majority of TA work, and we really reject and we are forced to say no to lots of great candidates. As we discussed earlier, even when the rejection is done properly, with the respect, with the great feedback, you earn yourself future applicants and loyalty, and they will come back, they will apply again, because of course they understand that there is one spot, and if you had a great talks, candidates, this time you're moving forward with another one, but next time. So
yeah, and I think that links closely to what Tobias was saying before. It's you can have, as good of a candidate experience as you want, but if you don't actually follow up on what you say you're going to do, then it's all irrelevant. And that's both whether someone's rejected and no longer works for the company, or no longer has a chance to work for the company, or if they are hired into the company and realize that what they were told throughout the process maybe wasn't as accurate as they'd liked. And again, the bar is very, very low on that, but I think it's so important just to be totally transparent with people and just to do what you say you're going to do, which again seems like a very basic thing, but I think is something that's quite missed out on nowadays.
Another thing I just thought of was also about your LinkedIn, right? As recruiters, we get a lot of people just sending you requests and writing about, there's an interesting role. And the word out there is that a recruiter will never reply. Don't reach out to them. Go reach out to someone else in the company, and then you will eventually reach the recruiter. So how important is it to clean up your LinkedIn? I try my best to respond as many messages as we can, but what is your message for people out there? Do you reply and accept every single invite? How do you do it?
It's a tough world. I've had this debate with myself many times. And I always try to think about where do I spend my time the best? Like I can, because it's always about choosing the battle and the resources you have. If I have 100 applicants I need to go through and I have 40 LinkedIn messages, there could be good candidates in here. Some of them could be the ones applied. I don't know.
Yeah.
I need to choose. What do I focus on today so I can provide that value as quick as possible? And what do I leave for another time? And it's like sometimes I've had extremely good conversations out of LinkedIn that has led to good
Mhm.
things. But I
Yeah.
will say, in general, LinkedIn messaging goes very far down in my priority simply because it's full of a lot of AI messages. One example, I had one write to me on Monday, and he said, Tobias, I am this and this person, and I see you built a great career at Electricity Maps. I've been here for 3 months. And so I was having fun with it. I was like, I replied like, hey, I like funny AIs, but come on, man, just at least put a little bit of effort into it. Like, I'm gonna get reply to this. So a lot of them are standardized. And for this, my little trick, because I do believe I would rather give them a standard reply than no reply,
Yeah.
because it's a networking place. So I have a Chrome extensions where I can put in a very small little code script where it will generate a message for me. I can put into LinkedIn automatically. That's like, hey, thank you so much for reaching out. Awesome, awesome. If you're curious about the roles we have open right now, I will encourage you to go to our career site, and here's the link for it. And that saves me a lot of time. I put dash TYLI, thank you, LinkedIn, and then it will make that message for me. Yeah, it's in template generate, but I do think I feel more comfortable giving them an automatic reply than no reply, but it's still time. So it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point though, and it sounds like a good tool because again, I caused a little bit of a stir the other week on with a LinkedIn thing. But basically, my point was that applying to a role doesn't mean that you should always get a reply. And I think maybe that came across a little bit too literally. But the point I was making was similar to what you just made. I think people don't quite understand just how much pressure and how much is expected in general of TAs and of recruiters in any sense, and how much they kind of see on a daily basis. If, for example, you're looking for somebody who's, I don't know, a senior manager of whatever it is with 10 years experience and somebody who is currently studying, for a bachelor's in that space applies to the role, that's, in my opinion, very clear that that person's not going to be the right match for that position. Something like that, then, Tobias, what you mentioned there would be perfect. Like, thank you very much. In this situation, this isn't going to be quite right for you, but I would encourage you to look at this. And then it's kind of ticking all the boxes right where you're still making sure the person's acknowledged and replied to, but it's not so time consuming for you so that you can focus your time on people that maybe are a little bit closer to the requirements.
Agreed.
Absolutely. And one more thing just to add, today's thanks to AI and not only, but ATS are so now powerful, and it is easy today to automate the flow. So you have your pipes, and then when you move candidates, or if they stay in the first inbox, you can set up the triggers, and it's super easy just to set up the triggers that after certain days, if there is no actions, they can be rejected. So people should never be ghosted. That's the only thing I always advocate for. No matter how busy you are, it's not you are personally rejecting people. Now you have the tool, use it. Just put the trigger, put the days. If there is no action, meaning you're not interested for this candidate, and then just make a human message, because it is actually also using the triggers. You can make it so tailored today that it almost feel like you got the personal answer, not these these templates. There is this very templates when it's like, thank you for your interest, goodbye. But you can really write it nicely, and it will take you, now using AI, it can take you 2 minutes to create tailored nice message, put the triggers, and then it will take information from the candidate's CV to make it superhuman, and then in 5 days, if there is no action done, they are rejected.
Can I just add to that, like, very, very quick? I'm careful of time here. Yes, I 100% agree. I have a trigger in my inbox. If they've been there for 8 days, they will receive a message. That message says, "Hey, this is taking longer than expected. Really sorry. Really hoping to get back to you very soon. Please take it." Like, thank you so much for your patience. Like, it's just a one-liner. I even put emojis in there sometimes. Like, it's just like you can have a human template. Yeah. So,
Yeah, exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
just want to
And
echo
it
that.
feels so much for the person who is waiting. And it takes no time for you to set up a trigger.
Amazing. Right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate your time and for all the points that you've brought to the table. I've learned a lot myself. Hopefully you've all took something away from it as well. But massive thank you for spending your time after a busy day at work. And yeah, I really appreciate all the points that you've brought. And hopefully we'll all speak again very soon.
Thank you very much, everyone. It was truly a pleasure. Thank you for inviting and for such a great company. I think we had such a great company today.
Yeah.
No problem at all. Thank you all very much. I'll see you all soon.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you
Cheers,
so
chat.
much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.